Hi, everybody. We are about to start within a couple of minutes. Just waiting for everybody to join. Normally, you would be able to see our screen already. If you are experiencing any technical difficulties, please have a send a message to the chat. And we are ready to start. So welcome everybody to our Numlix webinar, Why Anaplan plus Power BI is a powerful choice for financial planning and controlling teams this year. We're going to do this without video today. We have a little bit of technical problems, so hopefully I will be able to talk to you through my voice to bring all the passion I have about this topic. So let's just move on directly to the content. We have asked your colleagues in financial planning and controlling, what is on your agenda today, this year? And apart from all the uncertainties coming from the pandemic, there is quite a certainty that finance teams, they get a greater focus in A, generating more insights from their planning and analysis, and B, in actually improving the way how we tell our story with data and give these insights to our management so that they could be able to act on that. So today, if this is on your agenda, you're in a great place because you are going to learn how Anaplan and Power BI can help you with reaching those two goals and how actually to take the best of those two worlds. If you have any questions along the way, please just use this question section in your menu and we will tackle them at the end of the session. A little bit about our hosts today, or your hosts today. It's me, Marina Ketelslegers. I'm a business consultant of Numlix, and our data analyst from our data team is Anton. So just if you are interested in our experience and the projects we have accomplished, just go to LinkedIn. We'll be able to and happy to connect there because we have a lot of content and 2 demos. We will just straightly jump into content. What actually planning and analysis, which is insightful, and what makes planning and analysis insightful? And there are some similarities in how high-performing companies are approaching it. First, there is an understanding needed of the drivers which are behind your plan. And out of that, there is a number of insights and more insights which you will be able to generate. You would also probably agree that when you have a lot of stakeholders in your planning process, it becomes vital to just to track all the assumptions and all the changes in those assumptions which people have made in the process. And that by itself gives you an opportunity to generate more insights, or maybe even not just don't lose those insights which you had within your team and for your financial planning. If before we in finance, we just had to do some scenario analysis when we had to, today companies which incorporates scenarios and what if analysis as part of their planning routine, they're able to generate more insights. So scenario analysis, it's not just an extra work, it's part of your routine. And last but not least, financial teams have to deal with more and more data for sure, for forecasting especially. And for example, we would then start adopting more modeling techniques of course, depending on how tool is providing this to us, it's important that those modeling techniques would be simply stated, because it's just, yeah, I don't think it's fair to think that financial people would just start programming and do machine learning immediately the day after you have asked them to. So simply state it in your tool. That's important. So where shall we begin? In practice, many of organizations, and maybe some of you also in the situation when planning analysis, it's a part of other packages and tools of your ERP. Maybe you have part of budgeting there, or maybe some CRM tool would do some specific forecasting for your sales, and of course Excel. And the process it becomes challenging to just bring those changes in the process within all those tools. So it's important that the tool which you use for planning analysis could be flexible enough, business owned, get all these modeling techniques simply stated, and be scalable and efficient. So usually CFOs come to an answer: stop, we need to stop it, we need a specialized planning and analysis solution. And one of the solutions is Anaplan, we're going to talk about today. So what is Anaplan? It's already a number of years on the markets, and quite successful, growing last years very fast. It's a company which has pioneered this idea of connected planning, when we do connect people, plans, and data on one platform. And they state that it's really important that we do it just in a comprehensive, connected, and collaborative way, financial planning analysis. But actually, it brings us even further and puts Anaplan in a unique position when, yes, they are coming from financial planning analysis originally, and they are very strong in it. So in Anaplan, you can do, of course, all types of financial planning, but you also will be able to scale it to other parts of planning and any type of planning, like sales, supply chain, marketing, and human resources planning, which is also planning, but okay, so it's a little bit different one. So it puts Anaplan in really a unique position as a financial planning analysis platform. So probably the best is, of course, to see and then just to keep explaining. So let me immediately jump into the demo of Anaplan. And I'm logging into Anaplan. I'm logged in Anaplan as financial manager of our company, where I have access to different planning applications. It's handy to see also some notifications here. Maybe some deadlines are coming, or maybe some approvals I need to make. I can also specify that I have read that, for example, and it will disappear from my board. I proceed into CAPEX application, where I can choose where I want to focus. I can focus on the details of a CAPEX project, or I can look at the summary analysis. Let me just review one of our key projects. Anaplan has unlimited dimensionality, so I can choose a project to review, and you can see that there are so many different dimensions assigned to the project. For some other tools, it can be a challenge to have unlimited amount of dimensions. For Anaplan, that's truly an unlimited possibility. And those dimensions are defined, designed, and owned also by finance team. It's also quite easy to do such a dashboard, which you see on the screen. Now I click on the edit button, and you can see that it's sort of a drag and drop setup, which a business person from financial team would be absolutely capable to do. Anaplan also helps us to automate the approval process. By clicking this approval button, submit for approval, I can submit the project for approval so that the correct person would get a notification. So instead of working with Excel templates and CAPEX process stakeholders, they just can now create the projects within Anaplan, and finance team can save a lot of time on collecting them, correcting errors in those Excel templates, and copy pasting them. For some of you, that would be interesting just to get the initial data on the projects from a different system, like for example, from an ERP or from project management solution. Of course, there are different assumptions linked to every project. And let me go just a little bit down and click on this link to review those assumptions. That's where Anaplan helps to capture all those assumptions about investment details, incremental revenue, and incremental OPEX within one page and linked to one project. So we just need to, for example, create a new scenario. That's not a problem. We can still do that. You can see that there is a copy scenario tool, because usually we don't start from scratch. We just copy the workbook, for example, if you use Excel. Like that, no assumptions would get lost, and they will always stay documented in Anaplan. And that's a nice thing. Scenarios are there. Apart from scenarios at the level of the project, there are also scenarios at the level of the company, or at the level of the total financial plan. And our company, and this company, is using the alternative future scenarios, where you just plan around some big events in the future. And this the company would be doing this, for example, by sitting together during the meeting and looking at which projects would be impacted by one or another event. So, for example, we could sit together with the management team and say that a couple of projects would be not able to just be performed while we, for example, we have a competitor response, or maybe some other projects should be taken place. And for COVID, the impact would just bring our financials down. So instead of just giving these assumptions to somebody in financial team, going back and recalculating all these numbers and coming back during the next meeting, we can in real time see this during the meeting itself, and the decision speed is of course much faster. I have an ability to look at the CAPEX summary, where I can choose all the projects and see what is my final investment plan is, and a different aspect of analysis. I can also probably would want to put some key risks and opportunities here. There are some of them already, but I would add another one. And if we add another one, it's immediately saved in the database. And I can just interact with the dashboard. My last investment plan, or my last CAPEX plan, and those risks and opportunities, I probably would want to make available to the bigger world, and I will submit them into Power BI. We'll make them available for Power BI. All right, so let's conclude what we have seen. We have seen a CAPEX planning application, which is actually fully Excel-free, with approval workflow and with scenario planning, which is part of planning routine. And of course, there is a connection to Power BI and integration with other data sources. If you have any questions at this point, just put them in the question section of your menu. So let's go to the second one. Even if you have perfect planning analysis application or planning and analysis process, which generates a lot of insights, it still can be a struggle for your team to just bring all those insights to communicate them to the management team. No matter which tool you're using, storytelling is the most important part, of course. And storytelling itself is, of course, a separate topic, how you visualize the data. But just let me give you some tips and tricks maybe you could start using already today when you design your dashboard in whatever tool. First, of course, it's important to understand the context. Define who is going to use your dashboard, what this person is looking for, and how this person is expected to interact with the dashboard. So that's important. That's already 50% of success. Now, you have to choose an appropriate visual sometimes. For example, if you use comparison, or if you want to compare, then it's line chart or column chart would be the best option. And if for composition, showing the structure of something, There is a stack column, or for example, a waterfall chart, which we all love, would be a great way to show the composition. And there are much more tips and tricks on that. Eliminate clutter and just make sure that people's focus is actually depending on size, color, and position variations. It's quite simple, but if you put too much color or too much different sizes or the not logical position, people would not be able to focus on the right thing or on the thing you want them to focus on. And that there are two others which are more depending on how the data is structured and what kind of tool is used for the storytelling and visualization. So there, it's important that you don't have to spend your energy on designing. You have to spend your energy on designing a story, but not actually on reconciling the data on the behind the tool. So that's actually very frustrating for the teams. And then the limitations of the tool can also discourage a little bit. So hopefully you would use a tool which would inspire the possibilities. And in practice, when we look at what actually this means, then there is a starting point always. Like every tool can make a report or a dashboard and customize reports when we need to build them and combine different sources. You usually end up as a financial person and copy pasting in Excel, even when you are using a number of very expensive and modern tools. The challenge is basically to have professional dashboarding, but also being able to share this dashboard, have a self-service, make sure it's scalable, efficient. And usually the answer, and you can see it already on the screen, is that, we need a specialized business intelligence solution. Can be coming from finance or maybe even from other department, from IT as well. And one of those solutions is Power BI, and we're going to look at it today. What is Power BI? Just a little bit of context. It's a tool which is with other names has been already around. It's a Microsoft product, which today is a Power BI.com service and Power BI desktop applications, which is in some cases even free to use. It's part of Microsoft package. It says a lot, so it's integratable with all different Microsoft services, with Power Platform and with Azure Cloud and services. And that makes the data accelerates the data preparation, because you can use all the services and the power of them behind Power BI. There is a very strong community of Power BI, the same you can say about Anaplan as well. And they're rapidly adding new capabilities. So all very strong new capabilities have been added during the last 2 years. Just go on their website and see what they are. So now maybe you're thinking, okay, so both tools are interesting. Maybe you have seen Power BI, but we'll show a demo that's still coming. So, but Anaplan and Power BI, how to fly it together, and when should you fly this together? That's I think the question we all need the answer to. But before we go into this discussion, let me ask you a question. What is your challenge regarding these two tools today? And now you will see a poll question popping up. Like, for example, you have already Anaplan and you're thinking how Power BI can add value. Or maybe you have Power BI, but you think how Anaplan can add value. And or maybe you have both, but you don't know how to make them work together, or you have none of them. So just share this with the team. It's interesting what kind of audience we have here today. And we can see the results coming. And we can maybe end in a couple of seconds, minutes. Okay, so I can see that, wow, there are 40% of people who are actually having Power BI and wondering what Anaplan is. That's great. And we have 55% which have none of them. Well, that's I think for you guys, that's a lot of learning today. So you kind of kill two rabbits by having attending this webinar. Fantastic. So let's now focus on this specific part of comparison. What are the similarities and what are the differences between those two tools? And take your time to read through this table, and I will just highlight the main differences. So if you look at what Anaplan is, that's the tool which is, you cannot call it a BI, a specialized BI solution. While for Power BI, that's exactly the case. As a result, you would notice that the amount of different visuals and types of visuals and the ability to customize them will be much bigger in Power BI. So the better visualization, that's you go for Power BI. Anaplan also has that. It's good, but okay, so it's not a BI tool, it's not the purpose. Now, in the second part, I want to mention that Anaplan is actually made for budgeting, planning, forecasting, and it's great in gathering inputs, as you could see in my example in this CAPEX app. So people could just go and type in information and writing it directly into the database. Consolidation and close, it's the process which you would put into Anaplan and it would work perfectly. Then you also have reporting and controlling, which can be also done out of Anaplan. And that will be also a very good solution. The last point I want to specify is that you have seen I have been changing the numbers as well in my planning in my Anaplan demo. So there is a possibility to do this what if planning on the fly on the dashboards in Anaplan. So all this, what I have just mentioned, is something which you would not go to Power BI to solve, and that makes Anaplan absolutely not comparable with Power BI in this part of functionality. Now there is also data governance, data modeling, which is good in both situations or in both tools with the help of Azure. And there are some differences in how advanced analytics is working, how ad hoc reporting is working, and data discovery is probably much better in in Power BI with the help of Azure services. It's when you can ask questions to your data, for example. So now that's something what might be a good starting point when you look at, okay, how I can make those two tools work together, because you probably would want to take the best out of them. How can they ideally work together? And this is the example we see at our customers, how they are implementing that. It's not the only solution. There will be other ones using other tools which are doing similar things, but of course that's the suggestion, which would avoid the doubling of functionality and even would save some costs for you. So of course, it all starts with all data sources which are engaged in planning process. And take your time to read through the slides. There is a lot of information. I will take you through the main steps. So you can see there are data sources engaged in planning. And those data sources are actively used in the planning process. So if it's the case, then you will probably bring them in what is called Anaplan Data Hub. In Anaplan Data Hub, which is actually run by finance people, but sort of super users, you would be able to ingest the data, do the governance, do staging and preparation and cleanup. But you can also introduce some finance managed dimensions, sort of mapping, for example, between accounts, which exists nowhere but only in the Data Hub. So that's, I think, also a very good situation when you can manage the master data, which is then in hands of controlled by finance people and not by IT. So then when the cleaned up data is ready, we put it into Anaplan models. And those models, of course, we are talking today about financial planning models, but can be other ones, can be supply chain, workforce planning, and so on. So in Anaplan, let Anaplan do what it has been made for. So it means that do planning, budgeting, and forecasting there. If you do consolidation and close, do it there. Gather inputs and consolidate in Anaplan. Get rid of all those templates in Excel, whatever complexity they have. You will be able to put them into Anaplan. Then there is also this interactivity on the dashboards, which is nowhere available to interact with the data and to do real-time planning immediately during the meeting. So do that in Anaplan. And then Anaplan Access is usually for the people who are stakeholders directly involved in planning, reporting, and controlling. So if actually there are people in your team who are just viewing data, you can still give them access, but maybe it's a good idea to think maybe they can use Power BI, for example, or other BI solution to view the data from Anaplan. Why? Because there is a very easy way to integrate Anaplan data into Power BI. There is a native connector for that, and you will see it working in our demo. But there is also a way to use, for example, Microsoft Azure Cloud, through which you can then send the data to Power BI if your organization is using Azure. It can be other cloud solution as well. Anaplan itself stores data in the cloud, so that's a nice connection with any other cloud solution, which is also possible. All right, so in Power BI, then it means just let Power BI do what it has been made for. Do just BI reporting and dashboarding there, and self-service analytics and the data discovery, do it there. So by this, you would not be doubling the functionality. Another thing, an important one, you can involve additional data sources which are not actually directly engaged in planning. For example, I don't know, quality KPIs, I don't know, customer satisfaction KPIs. You will see it in our example, which you can then incorporate. They can be coming directly from the data source, or again through the Azure cloud and the data warehouses you have in your organization. And Anaplan will be storing in Power BI only final latest sort of milestone plans, which you want to make available to our whole organization. All right. Now, showtime. I will give now word to my colleague Anton, which will be showing you an executive dashboard in Power BI, where we do use multiple data sources, and he will be able to set up a live connection to Anaplan. Anton,
thank you, Marina.
You can make yourself a presenter.
Hi, thank you. So, hello everyone. My name is Anton, and I'm a colleague of Marina at Nimlix. Today, I'll show you guys a short and basic introduction to Power BI, and I'll show you how easy it is to make a connection between Power BI and Anaplan. First, let me start with sharing my screen. So there we go. So what you see here is a dashboard created and designed in Power BI. This dashboard is used by an executive team to see the latest status of some KPIs. Based on these KPIs, the executive team can make decisions and can take immediate action based on these visuals. So it's really important that the visuals and the figures are clear and easy to interpret. So let's look at the dashboard. As a member of the executive board, I can directly see on this dashboard the customer satisfaction rate, for example, the status of the inventory plan, the planned production, and the average learning capacity. Judging on the color of, for example, the customer satisfaction rate here, I can see that it's red and that there is an exclamation mark. So I can directly see that the rate is not what it should be, and that the goal of 98% is not met. If we scroll down on this dashboard, you can see that for the other KPIs, there is a more detailed figure included on the dashboard. All of these figures and charts are linked to the filter section here on top. This dashboard is completely interactive, so that means that if we, for example, want to check the quality index for the month of January in 2020, we just click on the filters and the whole dashboard adapts itself. Then if we scroll down, we can directly see that the monthly average quality index for that month was 92%, while the target was 95%. Like Marina already explained, is that the true power of Power BI is, of course, the designing of the dashboard, but also the possibility of connecting data from multiple sources. On this dashboard, I'm using data that's getting imported from the marketing platform, but also from the ERP, from the quality management system, etc. One of the other possible sources is, of course, Anaplan, like you've guessed. On this dashboard, I already made a connection between Anaplan and Power BI to see the latest status of the inventory and what's up with the production. So now our team has a new request, and now we also want to visualize the data regarding the latest CapEx plan. I've kept some free space on the dashboard for the visualization of this CapEx data. So now we want to connect this dashboard to the Anaplan model that Marina showed you earlier in the webinar. First, how we do this. I'm expanding the ribbon and I'm going to the query editor of Power BI. The next step is clicking on New Source and then looking for the Anaplan Power BI connector. We double click on it And then Power BI asks for certain URLs to make the connection. These URLs can easily be found on the Anapedia page of Anaplan and Power BI. We just select and copy paste those and add these to Power BI. Next step is logging in with your Anaplan credentials. Oh. And then the navigator screen pops up. On this navigator screen, you will see your default workspace. For me, that's Numlix. And then you can look for the model that Marina showed earlier in the webinar. In this Anaplan model, Marina already prepared a certain data exports. So you just select these data exports you want to connect to your dashboard and you hit on OK. Now the data gets imported from Anaplan to your Power BI dashboard. The next step is cleaning up this data a little bit. So I'm going to call this data exports. I'll give it another name. Just for the sake of clarity. Just using the first row as a header. And then if we hit close and apply, the most up-to-date data gets sent from Anaplan to Power BI. So now the data is getting imported to Power BI. We, of course, want to visualize this data. How can we do that? Actually, that's really easy in Power BI. First, I think for the latest CapEx plan, I want to visualize it. It's on a timeline, and I want to see the change in budget over time. So I think the ribbon chart is a nice way of visualizing this. For this, I'm clicking on visualizations and then on the symbol of ribbon chart. Then this screen pops up and I'm going to fields. And I'm just going to drag and drop the right fields to the right place. So that's done. And we can see that there is a beautiful ribbon chart here. We just resize it and drag it to the right place on the dashboard. And that's done. For the second data set, this is a really small data set. So I'm just going to add a small table on the dashboard. It works in the same way. We just go to the right data set and we drag and drop the columns and the values to the right place. We can see on the dashboard that there appeared a table. So I think that looks good. It's also, of course, possible to add more complex figures and charts on your dashboard. Like, for example, down here below, we can see a Gantt chart, which is a really nice way to see the evolution of the completion gradient of certain projects. So I think this dashboard looks fine. The next step is then, of course, sending it to your colleagues and coworkers. That's easily done by clicking on the Publish button on top. And then the dashboard gets uploaded to Power BI server. Then you can send it to whoever you want. Okay, that's the end of my demo, and I'll give the word back to Marina.
Anton, thank you very much for this very nice demo. And let me just summarize some key takeaways for you. Whoa. And so what, fly it alone or with a copilot? That's the question. You now have seen Anaplan and Power BI, and you probably have, I hope that you have noticed that Anaplan is a scalable, business-owned, connected and collaborative planning platform, which you would probably primarily use for budgeting, planning and forecasting. and of course there are some things which cannot be done in Power BI in Anaplan. So if you look at some other specifics of Anaplan, like for example, we have seen that finance will be able to own and manage their master data in Anaplan Data Hub. Just have access to this data, review this, make sure that it is then populated to maybe some other applications using the same dimensions. Then Anaplan is excellent for input gathering and consolidation. You hopefully have seen that as well during our CAPEX demo. And especially for scenario planning and what-if analysis, there is an ability to do this interactive real-time planning directly from very user-friendly dashboards in my mind. So that's what makes Anaplan really, really worth its investment. Now in Power BI, you can definitely, you have probably be able to see that it's also scalable and absolutely robust business-owned business intelligence solution, which can be integrated with all the Azure cloud and the other services, Microsoft services on the Power Platform. It does have better visualizations, and developers are actually bringing new visualizations every month with new updates of Power BI. It has better self-service and ad hoc analytics. Again, integration with Azure has its clear advantages. Now the storage, for example, data storage, if you would ask me, where would you store your budget of 5 years ago? So you have prepared a budget 5 years ago, you want to consult it. Would it be wise to store it within Anaplan Cloud, or it's better to put it somewhere else? In this case, for example, Azure. And I would say yes, Anaplan storage. It may be more cost effective to put the data you don't use for planning anymore somewhere else. You still will be able to make some dashboards with it out of Power BI. So now there is also, it makes more sense for users who actually do not have to do this active planning and interactive planning to use something else, not Anaplan, just Power BI. You don't have to give them access to Anaplan. And Power BI usually a solution which is part of Microsoft package, and all the users in your organization, employees who normally would have access to this tool. So again, quite cost effective. Try to avoid doubling. So I see there are still questions, so we will now come into these questions. If you like this webinar, please let us know. If you didn't like this webinar, please also do. It's always good to have good feedback. Just know that at Numlix, you can always count on us when you have a need in a fresh look at your financial processes, or maybe tools. Maybe you're doubting about the tools. If you need Anaplan expertise, we have certified model builders. We with Anton, we're both certified model builders. Or if you need a Power BI expertise, also please come ask your questions. Or maybe you need a training, so that can also be. If you need a financial consulting, then maybe go to Ufinity directly, or maybe you need a resource. Ufinity is our mother company, which you maybe heard about. So now we go into your questions, and I see there are a number of questions came in. So let me just make them a little bit bigger for my screen. So the first question is, would you advise Anaplan for sort of small, medium enterprise size companies, as the application could be an overkill? And I think that was a question from Sandrine. Yes, if I can see it well. So yes, let's look into it. So Anaplan, I think this kind of applications should be coming out of your needs. So if what you are using today is not helping you, making your process too long, too complicated, or maybe just not reflecting how you see your finance department working with planning analysis, then it has absolutely a value to look at Anaplan as the solution for you, because models which you build behind can be big, or it can be very simple. Then it makes it even more performant. It will make it even more efficient how those models will be working. So Anaplan is absolutely a tool also for small, medium-sized enterprises. That's absolutely a way to look at. And how complex you make it, it's sort of on your side, on the design side of the implementation side. If it's not answering my question, please contact me or send me just a short message and we will talk more about it. Another question, or maybe a note, the amount of tools available makes making a choice for the tool very hard. Yeah, there are other brands named here like OneStream, Bright Analytics, Tagetic. Absolutely true, and that is why we're helping companies with putting one and the other tool next to each other, look at what your needs are, look at what those tools can do, and then make a choice, because otherwise, you know, it's indeed very difficult. So confirm this statement. Okay, so the question number 3: what is the time frame for an Anaplan model builder's setup? So that's a question. Let me just to make sure I understood it. So Anaplan model builders, those are people like super users or key users, you can call them as well, who would know how to build a model in Anaplan and how to maintain this model in case there are cases cases when you need to make changes, when the process has changed, when you need to make a new calculation, when you need to change a calculation. So then model builders would be doing that. When you need to make a new connection, that also model builders. So you can become a model builder through by going through a learning curve. So there is a learning curve for that. You can go through an online course which every Anaplan client has for free, and that's then level 1, level 2 model builder, level 3 model builder, and we usually advise our customers to have model builders within your finance teams and not to be dependent on the consultants, which of course, you know, we're happy to come and help you out. But the idea of Anaplan that you actually support it yourself after the initial implementation, which is done by companies like Numlix, who are partners, implementation partners of Anaplan. Hope I understood the question correctly. If not, please contact me on LinkedIn, just a message, I will easily reply. So there is also a nice note, a question mark. I will give it to Anton. It says, since when can you scroll down in Power BI? I thought it was always a one-pager. So Anton, would you comment?
No, you can adapt the screen resolution to anything you want, and if that screen resolution doesn't fit on your page, then you can scroll down. So I hope that's a short answer to your question.
Okay. So again, so in case more details needed, contact Anton on LinkedIn or just by email. Okay, then I think the last question for today, unless you guys maybe have more, if you want to unmute yourself, can we interact with the scenarios using Power BI? So Power BI will be visualizing the data which is sent from Anaplan. And you will be able to interact with scenarios by the means of filters, by the means of calculating some metrics or aggregating on the level of this dimension. So if, for example, in our case, we have been sending the data on the 4 different scenarios into Power BI, so you can make a filter where you can choose scenario. You will see then the plan based on this scenario. Would you be able from Power BI to type a figure and change it on the screen of Power BI? I'm not aware of this functionality. I'm also not aware that it's coming. That's something what I personally call interactive dashboarding, and that's something what is available only in Anaplan for financial planning analysis. All right. So, any brave people to unmute yourself and ask a question? No, okay. Or maybe you cannot do this technically. I hope you can. So so anyway, if you have any questions regarding this topic or just in general, as you can see those things on the screen, what kind of help you might be needing, you can call, you can contact us just by LinkedIn or by email. And please let us know if you like this webinar. You will get a recording tomorrow. I think this recording will be sent as a link to you, for everybody who has participated. Thank you very much. Please have a beautiful afternoon today and the rest of the week. Bye.